Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles, feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When they free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got scars to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey y'all, sorry we're late. We were having some technical difficulties. And, with our awesome folks behind the scenes, we were able to try to manage it as best as we can. But we want to say welcome to Taria and Scotty. We are season 3, volume 28, Court Watchers edition, 2025. We are closing out our 6th month into our season 3, and are just really excited to be able to share all the information that we have thus far, but also to just to recap the importance of the court watching program and just the value that it brings, but also too, because we're talking with Taria and preparing for tonight. There are some things that are going on in the court system, but I want to welcome Taria and Scotty first off before I
hello.
And it's hot. Y'all got air, Scotty. I know you in there burning up, so I apologize. I feel bad. That's the other thing, we're making sure we have in the office. So for that, I'm grateful. Taria, you got air, you're cool.
It's 103 in here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at home, but it's still the air conditioner is still blowing like it's so hot. I guess it's
it's working double time. So we had to send some interns home and things like that because it was really, really, really hot in here. So let's just jump right into it. So with the court watching, the 6th Amendment has certain rights that we as citizens of the United States have access to or are afforded to us. One, the right to a speedy and public trial. So that public thing, Taria, I imagine we'll be talking about in a minute. The right to an impartial jury, the right to be informed of the charges, or which would be also known as the formal arraignment, the right to confront witnesses, the right to compel witnesses to appear in court, and the right to legal counsel. Ange, did we get a 6th Amendment graphic that we can show folks? And so also too, part of the criminal legal system is the 8th Amendment, which prohibits excessive bail, which we see all the time, excessive fines, and cruel and unusual punishment. And so those are some of the things that we really, really, really want people to understand and know and pay attention to. Exercise your right. And we're going to talk about it. The more we have people going into the courtroom, even just spend a half a day, just spend a morning there, sitting in a courtroom, seeing what happens. I guarantee you it'll make your stomach turn. It'll give you a new appreciation for defendants that are going through the system. It'll give you a new appreciation for how the system actors move and play and do their things. You know what I mean? So it's just, we really, really, really want people to exercise that right. But Taria, you shared something with me earlier. And so we're just going to jump right into it. We do, yes, and you did. We do court watching regularly. Taria and a couple of interns and some other volunteers at court watching, they hop on via Zoom and watch the preliminary arraignments. So we don't have any problem going into any courtroom in person whatsoever. But Taria, tell us what's been happening on our virtual hearings as of late.
Good evening. So lately, I guess within the last month, they had tried. I guess they had a special judges meeting where they got together and were speaking about the court watching, and more people that is coming onto the Zoom. So I guess that it was high alert once multiple people were coming on and they weren't announcing where they're from or who they are and things like that. So they had this special meeting, I say about 3 weeks ago, and they imposed a couple of different rules and regulations. So at first, like for instance, like you said, I've been doing court watch now going on about 8 months on via Zoom, and never had any problems with no one asking me to show my face, share my screen, or even ask me my name. Now this last probably 2 months, been getting questioned about who you are. I want you to, in the last month, they want you to share your screen when you're on with certain judges, and they want you to let them know who you're court watching for, and so they can take the notes down and I guess basically give it down the lane to everybody else that is in the criminal justice system. That includes the ADAs, the head district attorney, the public defender's office, all the judges, and all around.
Let me pause you for a second. They want you to announce, like, say who you're court watching, like a defendant.
Yeah, like basically, yes. So like today.
So if you're not there for a defendant, you're not allowed to be there?
So that's the good question. Because it's funny because today we're on court watching, intern is on today. And, these judges, some of these judges only either come on once a month, some might come on once every couple months, and some might come on regularly. So usually the ones that regularly come on know who's on daily. And these ones that come on like either on call or probably like once every 2 or 3 months, they don't know the new court watchers that have come on. So my understanding is from a local judge a couple weeks ago, and said that they were only aware of Vera Institute, and that they knew that they had people that were court watching, but they knew that project was over. And I don't know how they connected with how Vera connected with the court house, but some way they had already had some kind of attunement that they understood that it was going to be selective court watchers through their program. But now that's over. But while I was on with them, it still was no problem, no issues. Right. The issues and problems came along now when more and more people are starting to get on court watching. Now they got the questionnaires. Now they want you to share your screen. You don't share. Some judges are saying if you don't share your screen, they're going to kick you off. So basically, it's no longer, to me personally, and this is just my opinion, it's no longer a public space, because now when you're kicking somebody out of a public space, that means you're trying to make it private.
Right.
So today we were told that they had they're doing away with court watchers allowed to see juvenile hearings and first-degree murder charges hearings. So they're going to seal them arraignments.
Juveniles have always, I'm sorry to cut you off. Juveniles aren't public. Like, you have to go there in person unless they're doing them via Zoom, you know what I mean, with their parents, but that wasn't never like a public space anyway. So why are they even bringing that into it like that?
Because lately, and this is why I believe that they're bringing that up, is because lately we have had Montgomery County Juvenile Detention Center on via Zoom through Montgomery County correctional facility, but they are at the youth center being arraigned because they're being charged as adults.
They're being charged as adults. Okay, so then that's a public hearing.
Yeah. So that's what she said today, because she said that what the fear is that people are going to retaliate. Like, they don't know if, as a court watcher, also the screen sharing, let me get to that first. Apparently the screen sharing comes from, they don't know who's behind the screen. So what they're saying is that they want to make sure that you're not, for instance, in a bar watching court and everybody can hear it, because somebody might be the victim's family, somebody might be somebody, so this is not just the safety of the judges, it's safety of all the way across the board, even including the defendants. Now, one thing I do not agree with that I did see recently on as a court watcher, and this is probably a reason they probably trying to shut it down from the public, is because one time a judge asked the defendant his social security number out loud, and he gave it across the table. And that could have been, anybody could have wrote that down.
But that was the judge's fault. Like, you don't ask that kind of stuff. He knows that he's in a public space.
I agree with you.
So their mistake, the public has to suffer for their mistake.
Yeah. And then, like I said, certain cases, I'm starting to get the rim that they are hiding certain cases from court watching. Mm-hmm. Because, like, for instance, today, so apparently before it starts, so I guess they have a backdoor meeting. That's what I call it. Mm-hmm. Before the Zoom starts with the ADA and the PD and the judge. And for instance, I didn't get on this morning for a whole half an hour. Like, you can tell when the host appears, and it tells you host has arrived. They will let you in eventually. I usually call after about 15 minutes and I'm still in the waiting area. I'm usually calling and asking, is court today or is the judge there? I know sometimes some of the judges run late. So I got on about 10 o'clock. They already started arraignments. So a couple of arraignments I didn't even get to see.
Right.
Have no idea what it was about. I specifically told a judge a couple of weeks ago when I got personally kicked off of Zoom because I didn't share my screen. I did share my screen, but I have a background on my screen. So my face comes still up, but you just don't see my background. You see me on the background and you see my face.
Right.
She kicked me off. I called her precinct. I called her district court, and I told them, I said, I shared my screen. She asked the screen to be shared. I'm not taking my background off because it's not that important for me to take my background off. Right. As long as you see my face and you asked me to do something, I did it. And I feel that that's kind of going a little bit overboard with asking me to take my whole background down, where I'm not just on court watch Zooms every day. I'm on other Zooms too that I just have a screen up. Right. And sometimes I don't know how to put my screen back, so I don't touch it. So,
but also like, too, I want to say, since they're utilizing safety, because now they're weaponizing the word safety, they're making it such a broad term that it's we don't know who's there, we don't know who's listening. Again, if this was public in a courtroom, people would be in that space. And so you don't know who's a victim, you don't know who's whatever, and they're allowed to be there. That's the thing. Okay, if you're a victim or you're a witness or you're whatever, you're allowed to be there. If you're a family member of these people, you're allowed to be there. So you can't say you can't be here because you're worried about safety. That's why you put law enforcement and you have security if you're worried about, something jumping off. You know what I mean? Because they have a right to be there. As long as everybody's cool, what's the problem? But when they're asking you to take your background down, now they can get to see in your house. where they are. If you're in your car, maybe you're at another facility, like they don't know where you are. They're not protecting your privacy and your safety. You know what I'm saying? Because there may be some identifying factors that says to people where you are. Yeah. And they don't need to know where you are. They just need to know that you're you.
And that's what I said today. I had the same point you just had. And I had the same point to a judge about 3 weeks ago when I seen him face to face. I said, so where does it? I said, I understand safety of others, but where does it come in for the safety of us? So as I use the term to him is, you know, especially here in Montgomery County and Norristown, if, you know, half of the people I know that's being arraigned. So me looking at somebody being arraigned, it could be a gift or a curse.
Right.
Because they don't know, you know, that's one thing they don't do. So if you're going to do these new rules, what you need to do is you need to announce who everybody on the screen is.
Right.
What you need to say is that this person is a court observer. This person belongs to this organization. This is the, you know, you announce the judge, you announce the ADA, you announce the PD, and they already know pre-trials because they're there.
Right.
But my whole thing is that it's only on this level of the preliminary arraignments. That's the problem.
Right.
Because when I'm on 1 o'clock every day for the bail reviews, and be honest, and so what I did notice too, like you just said, they want the limited amount of information out there. So not even just that. Let me give you a better one. So I was also told today that a couple of private attorneys were complaining.
Complaining about what?
About faces not being seen in the protection of their clients. Because behind that screen, it could be, like I said, it could be a retaliation situation. Like, so you really think that in a day's time, somebody's going to wake up at 9:30 in the morning to get on court to try to find somebody that's coming in or out of jail to retaliate on?
And Taria, let's
make sense.
Right. And let's also remind people, this link is not public. So can't nobody just get the link. Now we put it out there, but we ain't seen nobody hop on that ain't us.
Not at all.
So you really expect these jokers to be sitting here thinking that it's not public, that these arraignments are at 9:30, 2:30, and 7:30 every day.
That's right.
Monday through Friday, 7 days a week. That's not out there. These people aren't, how many people are watching this podcast and really paying attention? We want them to, but the reality is they don't. They don't want to have this information. So everything that they're saying is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Because this link's not public.
And the funny thing, like you just said, is a hit or miss because you don't know, you know, who's going to tell you to share your screen, because lately haven't had to share it. So the thing in a nutshell is that the biggest problem is that, okay, now this morning or yesterday morning, I specifically shared my screen and I said, good morning. I didn't even get a good morning back by nobody but pre-trials. And the only reason is because I know majority of them, because I deal with them a lot, you know, hands-on when I call up there about an inmate, you know, so they're very, very, you know, good.
Right. Yeah, they know you. They know you.
And they know me kind of like personally now, you know, been dealing with them the last almost 4 years, you know, so how long they've been up and going, almost probably going on like 4 years. So, but that's the ignorance that you get.
Right.
And I'm not going to keep on saying good morning. I'm letting you know I'm here. I'm saying good morning. I don't get it back. There's nothing more to say.
Right, right. I want to add a couple more things as to how ridiculous this is. So we already established that they know who the court watchers are. So, I mean, Taria, when our court watchers are on there, there's no other random people, right? Everybody that's on court watching on the preliminary arraignments, you know. So that means the court knows, because I had to give the names. So the judge controls who they let in the Zoom. So if it's somebody that you don't know that's outside of our court watching program, then that's on you. So if you're letting somebody in that you don't know who they are, the judge has complete and total control over that. So I can't say, oh, Joe Schmo, hop on, they're going to let you in. No, you're going to get vetted, and they're not going to let you in until they identify who you are, right? That's the first point. The second point is that them wanting your pictures on, or they want to see your background and see who's all there, gives the intent that we're facilitating, gang wars or victims or families or whatever, ops and all that, to sit over our shoulder and listen in, like you said, oh, so-and-so is on right now. You need to let me call you right quick so you can hear what's happening in their preliminary arraignment. And then, Scotty, I'm gonna let you answer this question. And Taria, because I know you're on there, but Scotty, what is revealed at a preliminary arraignment? How much information is given at a preliminary arraignment that anybody that would be an op could benefit from?
Nothing.
You have more issues at a preliminary hearing than they would at a preliminary arraignment, and that person's in custody.
You have defendants that don't even know why. They don't even reveal stuff to the defendant. So They keep that for when we go for the heavy hitters, the court. But what they're doing piece by piece, and this is the big picture, is that they're taking away your inalienable rights to be able to do what the Constitution says you're eligible to do. And what they're doing is they taking little pieces of it at a time till there is none.
Right.
And as long as they take a little piece, it ain't too much of a cry about people, what's happening and why they're doing that. Oh, that's to help them so-and-so. But as they chip away, pretty soon you won't nobody. You won't even be allowed in the damn courtroom.
Right.
Because what they're going to start doing is, after they get this established, then they're going to start stopping you at the door when you come into the, let me see your ID. Come on. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I agree with you there.
They're trying to take that. You guys have established yourself to the point where the courts know that you are relevant. See, before it didn't make any difference because they didn't care who said what or did what. They were going to do what they were going to do.
Yep.
But now when you say court watching, that means that, hey, we got our eyes on you. And we're going to see the bad that you do. We're also going to see the good that you do. But when you're out of step and do the bad things to people who don't deserve it, not that anybody does, then we're going to speak up and we're going to put it out in the forefront. We're going to let the public know that Judge so-and-so did this here, that this person did this when it wasn't supposed to be that, how they let her get away with that, but they didn't let him get away with that. So that's what they're scared of, for real. That's what it is. They don't like being under the gun. They don't like being watched.
Absolutely. And the very thing that's happening in our communities with the ICE raids, and they're covering their faces and they're just disappearing people without due process. That's eventually what's going to start happening here. Like you said, bit by bit, they're eroding our constitutional rights. And before you know it, your loved one's just going to disappear. They're kidnapping people. They are legitimately kidnapping people. And it's like, if we don't put a stop to it now, like here in Montgomery County, we don't take a stand here. I mean, this is where we live. Like I used to say, like we were in a bubble. I thought, like, you know what I mean? We had some pushback against some of these, this crazy stuff that we're seeing, in other parts of the country. But this is happening here. This current administration identified Norristown specifically as a target for ICE. So yes, eyes are on Norristown. Eyes are on Montgomery.
Let me do something real fast, right? So it's funny. So I was about to just say that I challenged the judge today, and I said, they so worried about us with Zoom, and are showing our faces to see who the court watchers are. But my biggest tiff is I'm challenging y'all that I'm tired of seeing Cheltenham detectives had the people behind bars and they're still arraigned, and they're not even officially charged yet. And they said, yeah, that is, I tried my best to, note that and everything. And that they, they do have rights and stuff. So it's funny because I'm actually, zoomed in the court now. And lo and behold, they got somebody behind the cell. So the judge just said, because I guess I put it under the fire today, do you think you can bring them out of the cell and sit them in a seat like a human being?
That is the judge's responsibility to say that.
Right.
Why do they think it's okay that they're be in a cell?
Abington never does that. Abington never does that. And that's the stuff that I'm saying. And so, and like I said to this judge also today, I learned in this time, almost 9 months on, Zoom, that every judge runs their courtroom differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have some judges that side all with Commonwealth and don't give the PDs a chance. And it makes the public defenders look bad, how people always say public pretenders.
Pretenders, right.
And that's the sad thing, because some of these the public defenders are beasts. And right. They can't be a beast when they don't get, give me one, like give me, split it down the middle, split the baby, Right. But if everything, I agree with the Commonwealth. I agree with the Commonwealth. And then another thing I don't like that brings to my attention real fast is some of the judges don't do their jobs, and they allow the ADA, and this is why they say who has the most power in the courtroom, and they say district attorney, because judges allow that to happen. And they have some ADA sometimes reading the collar plea to the defendants, and then turn around and give that defendant $20,000 cash bail. You got to make it make sense to me.
Right.
Like everybody has a lane and a duty. The ADA is under the district attorney, the head district attorney. The judge is atop of the district attorney. So how are they collar pleading people like they are the head in charge? I know one judge that don't play that game. He don't care if you already read the complaint, because and that's what, like Scotty just said, a lot of these PDs try to hide the people's charges. They don't want, because they know other people are in the space. Mm-hmm. Now, just now the judge announced that it's court watchers on here. But the thing is, you should have been announced that, because the defendant has a reason, because it has been times, like Scotty said, that I saw a defendant say, who's that down there at the bottom of the screen?
Right.
But if it was announced to them at the beginning, it wouldn't have been a question at the end.
Right. You know what they don't want to do? They don't want to invite us to the table and have a conversation about how we can do this properly. Because we have a right, and I understand that they have a right to run their courtroom and the safety and all that. So why don't we all get together, sit down, and kind of map out some common sense protocols that make sense, for people, for the court watch programs at least. But once the public decides, if they know that their loved one is being arraigned, you know what I'm saying? They know that their loved one didn't come home, like, I'm starting to look, or they know to call us and say, hey, can you keep an eye out? And if you see their loved one coming up, hey, so your loved one's on, let's see if we can get you in, or we can say, we could communicate. That's if they really wanted to have a system that works for everybody. But they don't. They don't want a system that works for everybody. That's why they don't talk to us. They don't invite us to any of the communications, any of the decision making, none of that. That's why we don't. You could talk to pretrial. I've never met anybody at pretrial. When I try to get with the leadership, they don't want to talk to us.
But the funny thing is, like you said, but I had to, it's crazy that you said that, because when I started with talking to pretrial was on the strength of the bail fund for you guys. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is that it was select few that would speak to me. Mm-hmm. And now some of them are like our program. So the officers there. And, so they was like, I really like what y'all do and things like that. So they give up the information. but you got about 2 or 3 that would basically try to give you the hard time that I call just going a little overboard of their job. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad because they all know we're here for one purpose. Just like one public defender that will refer people on that while they're on. Can you bail this person out and give me the information? Another one won't even answer a chat. I chat them about something. I might have missed something. Won't get back at all. Right. Just ignorant. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to help you help yourself. Right. You got a few judges. You got a few judges on here that will say, I think it's a lady on here right now that might help you with a bail. Can you help this person with the bail? And the judge has let me talk to the defendant. Right. And then you have, the ADA. It was one day they was talking about bail to a defendant. She said she's not equipped with the bail thing. And they didn't know. So the judge said, we stopped doing it at the court, at our courts. And so then he said, I don't know the new protocol. So then I said, can I chime in? And then she said, oh yeah, you should know. So that's your lane. And I said, from my colleagues, information to me is that you have to go to the courthouse now and bail out because they no longer do it at the DJ's office. And anytime after the courthouse, you got to go up to the jail. Yep. So like you said, we all just because we're court watchers don't mean that we're not here to assist or everybody don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you said, teamwork. So
we're not the enemy.
The crazy thing that you just said that because on Juneteenth, I was actually approached by a Norristown police officer that I worked with myself personally for over 20 something years. And when I coached Pal Athletic League, and he asked me this actually when the chief came here, the black chief, the female,
Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis.
Yes, I can't remember her name. And he had said he wanted to have a round table because he had some concerns about bail reform, juvenile justice reform, and a couple other things. And he wanted to have a sit down. So he challenged me on Juneteenth down at they had a station down there. And like he said, he's not a big dog, but he's been on the force over 20 something years. Mm-hmm. So he wants to have a sit down because he doesn't agree with some of the bail reforms and how they're running it with not just bail bondsmen, but ADAs, the district attorneys, the public defenders, the police departments. And like you just said, he wants a round table with the judge, everybody that's a part of something. Right. Let's sit down like youth aid panel. He said it's a joke. You know what I mean? It's not no youth aid panel. You know what I mean? Like they said it was going to be. He said juveniles are doing crimes. They're getting out like within the next hour. It's like basically making the cops quit because it's looking like they don't respect the authority and things like that. So it's like he wants to sit down and have a table with everybody, like you just said, and everybody be on this, not.
Oh, you're on mute.
Not everybody's going to be on the same accord, but he wants to have everybody's opinion to how we can make everybody comfortable in this day and age. Because right now, the cops are getting the shit into the stick, excuse my language, behind everything because they're out here risking. But then when they're locking these defendants up, it's like basically a slap in the face because they're asking them for their opinion on bail, and the next thing you know, somebody's getting unsecure when they didn't already say they think the Afghan is in danger to the streets, and it's just not happening. So he said a lot of people's retiring behind that because it's dangerous, and especially these youths with these guns. He said it's scary. It's scary.
Well, I would love to have that sit down. So if that's something that you could facilitate or have them, give them our number, however we can make that happen. Absolutely. I've been, as long as we've been doing this, you know what I mean? The last 5 years, we've been wanting to, see how can we help this process be better? How can we, make sure that they're accountable to what the laws say, what the Constitution says, regardless of what they think their crime is. You're innocent until proven guilty.
Oh.
So behave that way.
I'm going to say one more thing and I'm going to leave you alone. This is a big one. So a judge said to me today that she went to the district attorney's office because she got called out by a police chief when she didn't set a proper bail. And she said she felt like her rights was violated.
Right.
And that Kevin still needs to do something about this police chief, because when do police chiefs go on line and expose a judge?
Right.
And they put that judge in harm's way, where she got threatened and everything behind a bail that she gave on, like Scotty just said, she gave on assumptions of the limited things that she knew about the case.
Right.
If she would have seen the video before the whole situation, she would have never gave that unsecure bail. She would have gave $1 million, she said, but she would have came somewhere in the middle. But because they only given limited amount of information also, and I saw that for firsthand myself the other day when a judge said Pottstown Police gave this 1-page affidavit, they got to do a little better for me to make
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
You know, so they're, you know, in the defense of the judges, right, you know, that I'm learning by talking to a few of them, they're kind of blindsided also.
Right. Yeah.
So they only
like
go off
wild, wild west.
Yeah. And like Scotty said, they don't want you to know too much. So what I learned is that they sit there and they say, oh, I already talked to my client, so the charges don't have to be read. But sometimes some judges be like, I'm going to read them anyway.
Right.
But if you go on the bail reviews, that whole thing is being read. And you learn a lot more to what they have at them bail reviews. And let me tell you something. The preliminary arraignments have nothing on the bail reviews. Because on the bail reviews, sometimes it's about 16 of us on there. And I know majority of them are courthouse people. And I know sometimes interpreters and all kinds of things like that. But that right there, and you know, you don't, I guess a judge there, common courts don't have time to be worrying about who's on the screen.
Right.
Sometimes
they know better.
Yeah, because the host that there is their clerk.
Right.
So she just letting people in. But then it's like you said, and then I'm done. And I let somebody else speak. But then it's kind of like a devil's advocate, because the judge also told me that a new law just passed called Act 71. And that is basically allowing a victim to be able to see the whole proceedings of their perpetrator. So basically, if you're letting a victim on Zoom and everything else, how you going to tell a civilian that they can't do the same thing?
Right. And why did they have to create a law for that? Like, that's their right if they want to get on.
It's already a law.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The amendment, the Sixth Amendment allows you to do that. But also too, for the accused, they have a right for the victim or the accusers.
Remember, we voted that in
too.
But that's all part of breaking down the court system. That's all. That is a part of that. They're putting in something that they say is a new law, but it's something that's already been there. But what they're doing with it is they're turning it and wording it so that it's in their favor. Right. It's not what the Constitution, the amendment is saying. Right. They're turning it and doing it in their favor. That's the way that works.
Well, a judge said 2 days ago, I forget his name. I want to say Judge Levine. I might be wrong. But he just said he given FYI. That's what he said on the thing. He said, I'm giving FYI that next month when I'm on call, I'm opening up my arraignment to my town so they can see what's going on.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Yeah, and he was one of the folks that was willing to sit down. He was even willing to come on the podcast. I need to follow up with him and get him on here, because that's you know what I mean. That's the kind of like environment. You know what I mean. We need judges. We need DAs. We need defense attorneys. You know what I mean. We need police officers. but we need good police officers. We need people with common sense, people with integrity, people that are there to do the job that they are hired to do, the job description. They're not here for it to be their personal vigilante service against people of color or, whoever. Like, just do your fucking job.
Yeah, but my thing is that you talking about court watchers possibly telling the enemy, the ops, something. What happened to the affidavits that you're putting the ops' whole name, social security number, address, phone number, everything down in where the world gets their paperwork?
Right.
Like, that's public records. Like,
Absolutely.
I used to go down to the courthouse and would pay to get transcripts on cases and sit here and be up all night long going over cases to help certain people with their case.
Right.
And that's open to the public.
Absolutely.
And only limitedly is sealed. Like the sealing is sealed to a extent, but majority of it's open to the public. You go down there, you go on the computer, you type up what you want to see, and you print it out, and it's $1 a page.
Right.
But if the judge is really doing his job, he is supposed to read everything, whether the ADA or the public defender wants to hear it or not. Yep. If it's in court, it's supposed to be read.
Thank you. And that's why Judge, and I got to call him out because I have to give him credit, even though he just socked it to my daughter on a little petty charge. But Judge Gallagher from Bridgeport, he is the only judge that I see that tells them straight up, I'm still going to read it. I'm still going to break it down. I'm still going to do my due diligence because that's my job.
That's his job.
That's exactly what he says. That's my job.
His job. That's right.
There you go. And I just want to shout out Yvonne Platts because we talked about the juveniles and we talked about how, there's no youth aid panel. Yvonne Platt, they talk about what are we going to do with these kids? Again, another resource to our community, the healing circles, the peace circles, restorative justice. Like, we're all members of Restorative Norristown. We're all trained in restorative practices. Do you think that any of them utilize that as a resource so that we can help our kids better navigate their emotions, their feelings, conflict, all those things? You think that they would, call in the people? One, we're their neighbors and family members. They look like us. So why wouldn't you want us to help you? Y'all don't have to just leave it up to us, but invite us to the table. You know what I mean? You're talking about you don't know what to do. These kids are out of control, but you're not inviting people that can help solve the problem to the table. Like, make that shit make sense.
Yeah,
you're not
and
really
then you're
serious about solving it.
Yeah, and then you're gonna say you're not gonna let people look at a first-degree murder arraignment. That I said in 62, me, you, Scotty, Miss Darnice. I don't know how many Miss Darnice might say because she got a little tired. I know me, you, and Scotty. I know I counted between 2020 to present almost 101 homicide trials that we didn't study. So how can you not let them see the preliminary arraignment, but you let us see the whole trial at the end?
Right. Because they don't want to see how it started.
Yeah,
I don't know how it started and how it ends.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. So what I did say to you that I did want to say real fast about these secret private hearings too. It's been a indictment here in Norristown since May 5th, 2024. And they done already arrested about 47 or 48 people. And they still have like 21 to go. It's a 67 people indictment between here and Philadelphia County.
Right.
And because I guess the lack of, I don't want to say like Scotty said, I don't want to say lack of judges because it's not. Everybody's the benches are full.
Right.
So I guess because of people being on Zoom, like you said, one judge decided to step up, Judge Krause from King of Prussia, and take on all the arraignments for all the ones that's caught up in a corrupt organization for this drug ring, RICO ring. So he's arraigning them one by one in his courtroom since May the 5th.
Wow.
So he took the bolt to take the hands off of the judges on Zoom because they were saying that they could probably be on Zoom for hours if they arraigned everybody one by one.
Right.
But my thing is, it's times we have been on court like the other day. We was on court from 9:30 to 1:30.
Oh,
it was like 16 defendants.
Wow.
Then the one night,
not related. None of them related. The case is related.
Not at all. And the other night, we was on Zoom until like 10 o'clock at night because the one judge decided to take every rolling. They was hot for real, you know. And it's like she like, I'm here.
Right.
And so it's my job. You know, I'm here. I'm no on-call person.
Right.
So it's like you said, it's a hit or a miss. But to me personally, some judges just want to get off quickly.
Right.
So, you know, but the biggest thing that I don't like is two things, and I'm going to let it go, is that I don't like when somebody's not competent and they still arraign them. And that's another thing I got to give Judge Gallagher credit for, because it was a lady that was being arraigned and you didn't understand nothing she was saying. But it's funny because the public defender already said, I think it's competency issues.
Right.
And he said straight to the staff, and him and pretrials got into it a little bit, because he said, why is this person not 302'd? Why is this person even coming sitting to get arraigned? I can't arraign this person. I can't even understand this person, let alone arraign them. So they're going to say to the judge, well, we don't have the power to 302. He said anybody has the power to 302.
Right.
He said, so I'm not trying to hear that. So he told them, since they didn't want to take the bolt, he said, well, have the police chief that picked this woman up call me, and I would tell him that he needs to have his staff 302 her.
Right.
Because I'm not going to arraign her. She's not in no state of mind.
Right.
But you have some that they still will arraign.
Right.
And you know another thing I don't like too? I don't like when they got one defendant and the defendant got about 10 cases. They go in there, arraign them at 9:30. They hit them with $5,000 unsecured bail. 2:30, they coming back for another case. And then I seen this other day personally.
The same person?
This man came back every shift for a new charge.
What?
Finally, the third time got him in jail. Like, come on, you're not going to tell me that when you do a docket sheet for this person that it's no way you don't see that he got multiple charges.
Right.
A defendant got off last night because Judge Rebar was on. And they didn't pick this defendant. This defendant was in jail in Philadelphia. And they had a warrant, a FOJ out for him.
Uh-huh.
On a Montgomery County warrant. She said, I can't penalize this man for being in jail. That's your fault for not going down there arresting him or arraigning him. So she let him out on $75,000 unsecured bail. Because she said, I can't penalize this man for that.
Right.
He was in jail. So my whole thing is that the mental health and these arraignments are horrible. Because like Scotty said, some of them don't understand. Like the other day, the man said, I talked to the lawyer, but I still don't understand my charges.
Right.
This man had to be about 80-something years old. And I think, and the PD said, I think he's got a touch of dementia.
Right.
Oh, no, but this kicker. So the one that I hit you up with the bell, the one other day that I referred you with, he had possible COVID. And they still put cash bail on him.
Wow.
So now you not only exposed one person, you exposing the whole jail.
The whole jail.
Man with COVID.
Wow.
Like it's sad.
And so let me tell you this or say this. So one of the things, and this is part of the reason why they're probably not wanting us in there and watching is because after a period of time, you start to see a pattern of how these particular judges are behaving, what they do. Reminder, these are elected officials. So if you don't like what you're hearing, we are literally seeing. This is not, you know what I mean? I can't tell the story. I wasn't on there. Taria was there. You saw it firsthand. Like, we are not making this stuff up. This is something that you see. So if you're not sure about the MDJ that's in your community, you need to start paying attention. You need to start watching. You need to start going to these places and sitting in their courtroom and watching how they treat people, because you elect them. You give them their job. The minute they get in there and they start doing all these shenanigans, like, come on, that could be your loved one next. Just because it's not hitting you today don't mean it ain't gonna fall on your head tomorrow.
And that judge, when he asked about the 302, it was his job, the 302, that defended right then and there.
Absolutely, because the judge has
that was his job. Right. That was his job. The 302 that defended.
Now he said he would.
Now because he didn't, and he let that court case move forward, they got to drop that. Any attorney worth his salt will get that thrown out. I could get that thrown out.
Yep. It's wild.
Yeah, and like I said, I know for a fact it ain't all private attorneys that's saying certain things. I know one attorney exactly that said something, because he basically, and he don't care for our group, and he don't care for you to, his clients to deal with us, because he knows sometimes he don't do the right thing.
Right.
And he made a comment one time when I was on there, and I just showed my screen, and he talking about, oh, that court watcher hasn't moved in 3 shifts I've been on here. And he's the only attorney that I have personally seen say something, because half of them attorneys, either I know personally, like you said, because I dealt with them on a case, or they just don't care. Because even an attorney that was on the other day is some no names I don't even know. Right. And an attorney that was on the other day, the judge said he'd been on the bench 30 years and he always wanted to see that attorney do a case. You know what I'm saying? So if you wait in 30 years and see this man do a case, then he must not do too many cases locally.
Like, oh, you done popped out today.
It's like, it's just funny, because I already, and the funny thing is that I don't know. I don't know if I got a 6th sense or whatever, but I was telling another constituent of ours that I think I know where it started with them start feeling like eyes on them. Because you got to just watch, even though behind the scenes of no screen, you see everybody's face.
Right.
And I already knew the ADAs was pushing it. And I got that confirmation that they are one of the ones pushing, and they don't like it. But that's even in person. They have pulled me aside and said, oh, where are you from? What organization you with? And things like that. I was like, I'm just a observer, And then, but like Scotty said, they don't like the heat under the fire. You know what I'm saying? And I feel as though if you come to do the real thing, the right thing, it shouldn't matter who you're on with.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You could be on with a ghost dad. And long as you know you're doing the ethical thing and you're doing the right thing and you're following the law, nobody should intimidate you to try to push them out to where they don't see nothing. And that lets me know it's something behind the walls that they just don't want us to see.
Yeah, don't want us to see. Absolutely. And I'll say this I'll say this before we close out, is that there are some defense attorneys that are in the same seat that we are, because they're advocates. They are advocating for their clients. They're doing the exact same thing that we're doing. They're calling them out. They're saying this, like, why are you doing that? And they are like a pariah. Like, they're not, you know what I mean? They're ostracized in the courthouse, because that's all relational, right? It's the DAs and what PDs get along, and the PD and the judge, what relationship they have. The same with the ADA and the judge. Like, everybody is relational. Like, when you sit there and you watch it, when we got our interns and they're sitting there, they're like, what in the world is going on? And it's like, yeah, it's like, they're talking amongst themselves like they're on a golf course or out to dinner. Like they're friends, they're busting it up, they're chopping it up. And then when it's time to go to work, the ADA is like tearing their client to shreds. And it's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? It's very not confusing, but conflicting to watch this. And it's like, how is justice being served in this environment? Like, how is it possible?
And not just that, you worrying about a court watcher. You need to make sure the PD's office got a place in that new building. Because from my understanding, they don't even got a building right now. So they ain't even got nowhere to stay. You know what I'm saying? They don't even got a building coming in the new $4.5 billion courthouse. So y'all got the littlest stuff that y'all, you know what I mean, that's not that serious, that can be fixed easy. You know what I mean? Then the real stuff behind the scenes that need to be really, really done.
Exactly. And the PD's office got the budget to hire 15 more attorneys and/or like social workers, casework managers, what have you, investigators. So you don't got room for them now. They're about to grow by 15, maybe 10 now, because I know they've been hiring. But yeah, like really, you got bigger fish to fry than worrying about us being on Zoom. But you hit the nail on the head. If you're not doing right, that's why you don't want us in there. That's why you're feeling hot under the collar.
But it's crazy that you just said that, because if you never gave that information that they got a budget to hire 15 more people, I sat in the commissioners meeting last Thursday, and they just gave the ADA a certain amount of millions of dollars to hire 7 new ADAs to come, but they never mentioned the public defender's office at all.
Ain't that crazy? Now, when you sit in there and you sit in the courtroom, there's at least 4 DAs, ADAs on their side, and 1 public defender, and they're defended. You might get 2 if it's a homicide, but any other time, it's 4 to 1. Yeah. Make that make sense.
And then just to end with this bang, I took a zerb to what you said, watching the bells of the ICE detainers. Montgomery County changed the policy to holding for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's up to 4 hours. ICE can come get them. They're making these bells so high,
right,
that ICE can come get them because these people aren't able to post. And
I'm getting referrals for $20,000.
Yeah, and last Thursday at the commissioners' meeting, that's all it was about, was ICE. And it got a little messy in there because it got a little tense. Right. And it's crazy because, like you said, really, they don't have no control of it. And it's a lot of people that's being detained. And a girl up there on the mic on Thursday at the commissioners' meeting said that the police departments are turning these people into ICE.
Yep.
They're calling ICE on these people.
But here's the thing. If they're really, as us as a sanctuary city, if they're really in it to help these people, just like they tell the ADAs now, don't do this, don't do that, they would tell our judges, hey, all bail, okay, is walk bail or all bail, and see how many times that they come in here to hold those people in jail.
Right.
I bet you won't have none.
All right. I did not think that we was gonna this was gonna be like that, but it's all good. I love how you know what I mean, it just organically happens, and like I said, we're not making this stuff up. This is stuff that we see, experience firsthand. You know what I mean? And so I want to thank Scotty and Taria for always being observant and being in the streets and talking to folks. Scotty, I'm gonna hit you up first because let you catch your breath. Yes. Thanks, Ange. You know where I was going with that. Scotty, what's your what the fuck moment? I know you got one because you got to sit and listen and digest you know, a lot of the changes.
Yeah, when are we going to stand up for our rights? When are we going to stand up and have stop these people from taking away the rights that we've already been given? When are we going to stand up and start hollering?
Right.
Instead of sitting back passive, letting them cut the doggone Constitution to pieces.
Yep. We got to band together. And, you know, there's one thing to rally and march, but it's another thing like going to those commissioners meetings You know what I mean? Packing that, going to council meetings, all that, like, you know.
And going to the ballot box. Going to the ballot box.
I know you say that all the time.
That's right. Go to the ballot box.
Yep. Taria, you got a WTF?
I just gotta I gotta second chair what Scotty said. We just gotta get it right. And you know, it's like we keep on trying to educate, inspire, you know, help the community. You know, that's, you know, one of our goals is to help you to help yourself. But some people just still don't want to get it right, and they still letting them fall by the wayside, like put us right back to slavery days. Mm-hmm. And I just always go back to the movie Get Out, because that is real. And right now, that's what it is here in Montgomery County. Is get out. You gotta get out or get got. You know what I mean? It's only two ways.
Right. So we have a couple of things. I definitely want to shout out our brother, Sean Bridges. He was our guest earlier this month. Owner and operator, founder of Bridges and Spirit LLC, where he is helping folks get out, untangle it further, like pardons and expungements. He's your go-to guy. If you need him, hit him up, or, you know, we can connect y'all, or can help you understand what it is that he does. And if you're eligible, you know, for an expungement or a pardon, we are having a fundraiser for the fellas, you know what I mean, or an event for the fellas, smoking whiskey on Sunday, July 20th at Von C, one of our favorite go-to partners that is always super generous with their space to allow us to come and kind of take over and have a good time. So we just confirmed, I'm not sure if it's on the flyer, that Best Kept Soul is going to be performing that night. So, and then the Diggs Brothers or Diggs Boys Whiskey Distillery and RM Cigars. So, and more vendors, more food vendors that we're going to announce as they come on board. And we're going to get the tickets up, the Eventbrite, so that y'all can purchase tickets. There's going to be multiple levels that you can do that. But also, too, if you want to just support this work, we have T-shirts. We have cannabis legislation that we're still trying to push through so that they're decriminalizing cannabis. You know, purchase a Cannabis Chronicles T-shirt. We sat in court today. You know, we were there for my son's case, which got continued because a clerical error. We didn't even get to all that. Clerical error that did not bring him down for his hearing today. So that got continued for 2 weeks later. But we actually saw a young man in there for personal use marijuana, $1,000 unsecured bail. You know what I'm saying? So he potentially facing jail time if he got cash bail. If he couldn't pay that $1,000, said it was $1,000 cash bail, he'd be sitting in jail right now for personal use marijuana. Like, there's still communities in Montgomery County that are doing that. You know what I'm saying? So that's a campaign that we're going to be pushing through. The Got Bail T-shirts, that definitely helps us, you know, post bail, post for freedom. You know, all these young folks that are, you know, don't have the money, or they don't have the capacity, or whatever it is. I mean, we posted bail for like 28 people so far this year, and it's like $15,000. That's not even $1,000 a person. You know what I'm saying? It's like almost $500 a person. So these are super low bail, so that they're literally being punished for poverty. It's not about, are they a safety risk or to the community or a flight risk. It's literally that the judges know that they don't have the money, and that's the way they're going to keep them incarcerated pre-trial. And then, you know, we got the Protect Your People book. Read the stories. You know what I mean? My son's stories in there, stories from hubs across the country. You want to be inspired. You want to, you know, get into this movement. You know, I think that's a good way to, you know, get your feet wet and understand what this movement is about. It's not about getting people off. It's fighting an oppressive system that is systematically designed to send people of color, black and brown, indigenous, all of those folks back to be enslaved. Like Taria said, modern day slavery, this prison system, the carceral system is modern day slavery. And in other places, it's literally in their constitution that they can hold people, they can force them to work, they can do a whole lot of things. You know, but that's for another show, because we can go on and on and on. It's a whole nother, you know, topic of discussion. So like, follow, share us on all of our social medias, Reuniting Family Bail Fund, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe to our channel so you get notifications when the podcast is going live. Also, we hop on and go live sometimes. So if you want to be a guest or you have a topic that you want to share, you got a what the fuck moment, hit us up. We'll go live and just chop it up and just expose some of these things so that we can start to see the change that we want in our communities. Taria, Scotty, I love y'all. You know that. You know what I mean? Yvonne, thanks for sticking it out. Rebel Hill Productions. I love y'all. Peace out.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fucking life. I be fog like what the fuck said. Body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be my Cardi B on and offset? Toast we got it, stuff we build.